Thank you very much. For item 4 on the naloxone to the transit supervisors, I support this motion, and I spoke to many people about it last year of increasing naloxone training and kit access, and also I brought it forward at the finance budget review earlier this year, and I was pleased that, just weeks after that meeting, that the mayor and various councillors did receive naloxone training at that time. And my position was to include naloxone training and the supply of kits, along with St. John CPR training to a lot of frontline staff and supervisors and foremen, etc. I received mine at Overdose Awareness Day in 2022 at the legislature, and this is the needle version. It's really not difficult to administer, but the nasal spray is much easier to use, and people would probably be more willing to use that. And I hope that this is used as a pilot to expand it to other areas and departments, so we can have faster emergency treatment to those who are unresponsive due to overdose and using tainted drugs, and to use as a lobby to the federal and the provincial governments to provide funding for it. Over 400 Manitobans a year die from overdose and tainted drug use. And I'm a champion of Bruce Oak Recovery Center. I'm there frequently, and I encourage you all to, if you want a tour or if you want to take in a gratitude session, I would graciously host you so you can see the impact of what recovery is and hear these people's stories. But fully endorse what is going on with naloxone, and I hope we're able to expand it. The transit plan acceleration. The transit master plan was released April of 2021, went to IRPW, through EPC, and through City Council in a period of 2.5 weeks. Before IRPW, that was my very first delegation, of which 2 of you were in that room. There are benefits to the transit master plan. We know we have to increase the frequency. I like the idea of the bridge from St. Vital to the University of Manitoba. But there are concerns that as you increase to newer areas that don't have adequate transit, you actually do take away from direct service in established neighborhoods. I live in Westwood. I grew up in Crestview. I'm familiar with Charleswood. There's nothing in the transit master plan to improve service to the University of Manitoba, Winnipeg's second largest destination for travel. Kenaston Boulevard is not deemed rapid transit. Now, when I was taking the bus to go to work, I would require 1 transfer, and it would take 1 hour. I could drive it in 20 minutes. I go to Polo Park driving in 10 minutes. It's still a half hour by transit. The transit master plan, because Westwood would lose all direct service and using the use of a feeder service, I would now require 2 transfers if I was going to work, and it does not change the duration of the trip. And the entire time coming home, I'm standing. And I know that there's more frequency, but also the on-demand service does not support the return trip home. And further specific to Westwood, a lot of students take that direct service on Portage Avenue, turn down Rouge Road, and get dropped off right in front of their school. Under the transit master plan, they would have to get off at Sturgeon Road, wait and get onto a feeder, which takes them through residential streets that are not designed for transit and increases the duration of the trip. And what's going to happen with those students in bad weather? They're going to be driven to school, or they're going to take their own vehicle to school. The feeder bus goes down Rouge to Sansom, down Sansom to Westwood, down McBay, past Lincoln School, which has a school bus lane for drop-off and pick-up. And there's parents parked on both sides of the street to pick up and drop off their kids. That feeder bus will have to stop and wait for school bus loading and unloading on a residential street. It actually degrades the service in established neighborhoods. What I'm cautioning is, unlike when it was released in 2021, when there was zero opportunity for councillors to take this information to their wards for consultation before vote, that as you roll out, please allow time and consideration for councillors to go to their wards saying, this is planned in the next year, this is what it means to your community, and that there be an opportunity for possibly for adjustments and concerns to be heard. And that transit master plan came in at over $1 billion, plus or minus 50% in 2021 dollars. There are other issues. You talked about electric buses being heavier and they tear up the roads more frequently. Also, you got to be concerned about the turnaround time to charge those buses compared to filling up a diesel tank and the cost involved. And there's opportunity for hydrogen buses. There is concern about Union Station being the hub and not something closer to Portage and Main to connect to the underground and the bridge walkways. I told you about my work experience. It actually does not improve in established neighborhoods. There is a need to improve service, but just please give consideration to each community to be consulted and to voice concerns to allow for adjustment for the plan on that. And then if I can ask, I did not register to speak on 29 process for new bicycle parking. I got one statement to say on that. If you could suspend rules to allow me to do that. Okay, thank you. As you do that, right now there are a lot of bike racks out there that are not even being used, but hope if the purpose being in the future, if there's more bike use, they're there. Go down Gary Street, go through the exchange, scores of bike racks that are not being used. When you choose a location, what was not considered on Assiniboine Avenue and in the exchange, the placement of the bike rack does not allow for vehicle doors to be opened. So that as you go forward, please put that as a consideration when you look at a location that is far enough away from the curb that people can open their car doors when they're parked beside that or picking up and dropping somebody off. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Wyatt.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. So when the transit master plan was brought in April of 2021, there was no consultation at the time when it was?
Not after the publication of the plan. The finalization, the publication of the plan, when it appeared on the agenda of IRPW, it was at the IRPW meeting. The week later was the EPC meeting. The week after was the city council meeting.
Okay, but was there consultation prior to?
There was public engagement, but honestly, Councillor Wyatt, through the chair, that public consultation is really only undertaken by those motivated or self-interest in promoting groups.
Right.
The vast majority of the public does not participate in surveys, does not go to events. And I'll go as recent as last February, there was a hosted at the convention center, 50 people showed up on sidewalk snow clearing. 50 people. 3 were from the non-bike community. 2 senior citizens, of which I was one, and 1 person in a wheelchair. Every single other person in attendance was from the bike community, and it was not really publicly advertised because of issues with the rules and that.
It's been called
when you go through, you can track down any of those surveys, 200 respondents, 500 respondents, statistically insignificant when you consider the city. So many of those surveys are written through SurveyMonkey, which means it was a city staffer that did it, and they're not scientifically valid. When I see a survey by Probe Research, I give that credibility. When I see it by SurveyMonkey, that's to deliver a determined, desired result. And when you look at the vast small numbers that participate in the engagement sessions, Zoom meetings, publicly, and through surveys, it is insignificant. You get more responses on a CTV viewer poll than you do on anything that the city does.
So,
Okay, so can I just jump in here,
Yeah,
Councillor Wyatt?
Sure, for sure.
I believe it's in the report. If not, Transit will speak to it. But come January and February, or one or the other, Transit will be coming forward, bringing forward this high-frequency routing and reaching out to the community to say, hey, we're going to refine this even further because there's been more development. There's been, maybe we should go to Garden City Mall versus not. Like, there will be an opportunity for refinement. I'm asking you and all the councillors to push that out so people will know. This is a fundamental change to our transit network and routing. And you're right, the mass majority of people, there's so much noise going on in the world, people don't necessarily engage, participate, hear, whatever. But I know the transit department, they'll speak to it today, are going to be doing an aggressive outreach to try and connect with all their contacts to bring awareness to the fact that, like you're pointing out the issues in Westwood and with the schools, this will be your opportunity to talk to transit to do further refinement on what they've come up with.
No, I appreciate that because I have over 1,100 followers, and anything on city issue I broadcast out on St. James community with 9,000 followers. What actually ends up happening is a lot of people make their comments known, but they don't engage.
No. Well,
I do
you know,
engage, you know that.
Yeah, we really know that, which is great. So yeah, like we can do so many things, but if people don't want to engage, they don't want to engage, right? So,
Yep.
but I think that people will be, transit users especially, will be very interested, knowing that now we are changing the routes. That in itself should have people perk up and at least express an interest, you know.
Right.
So,
But there's areas that, you know, the feeder is not a solution to improve it for those in established neighborhoods. I understand in the newer areas, they are very underserved, and there's great distances to walk, and we have to come to a plan to satisfy both. There is a lack of park and rides in the plan. There's a concern that a lane could be dedicated to it and cause further congestion on these spine routes. I would cite you an example of an intersection in St. James, Portage and Moray, and the Bill Clement Parkway. And on the corner is the school division headquarters.
yep.
In the afternoon commute, traffic is backed up a kilometer because there's only one lane to turn on the Bill Clement Parkway. And you add more buses and making more stops at that time, it's only going to get worse. I have a pie in the sky idea that the city should acquire that school division headquarters, have them relocate so that you can improve that intersection, add in a park and ride, and improve the bus corridor in that area so it alleviates the congestion.
Well, bring these forward at our discussions in January and February.
But please, as my main point is, please ensure the public is informed
Yeah.
and have an opportunity for consultation before something is rolled out in their community.
Well, and I will personally be talking to all these counselors too, because it was quite a shift when we went through this in 2020, even though it was the pandemic, there was a lot of drama, right? Because you're fundamentally changing the routes, so be forewarned.
And in our areas, we have a lot of senior citizens and disabled people. For me to take the bus today, I walk past 4 houses across the street and I'm on a bus. I have a handicapped person on that corner. He walks across the street to get on the bus, and the bus drops him off in front of his house. That is lost.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Wyatt, do you
Yeah,
have questions?
I really appreciate your comments, Madam Chair, and, you know, the great silent majority, I think has been referred to, right, who don't necessarily participate. I guess, you know, to that point, so when this does come forward, you would want to see, is it fair to say, kind of a mass advertising campaign to try to get people engaged, number one? Number two, the use of probe research versus this other system you were referring to. You know, a proper public relations, I guess, media campaign that would alert citizens to the changes, to engage them.
Be it community public forums to explain this is what the plan is, how they can be impacted. Not every counselor has a website, not every counselor is on social media.
And would you say that the frequency, the concern you raised about the feeder roads, I guess I was briefed last week. I went down to the transit offices and received a briefing regarding the transportation master plan. I guess upon reflection, the challenge that the staff are facing is that we have one transit planner for the entire city of Winnipeg, planning our system out versus other cities of our size that have a dozen. We rely on consultants, therefore. The challenge we have is we are going to use the same amount of resources, right? But just kind of move the pieces on the set, so to speak, on the board game around, versus doing this and adding more service, especially to the feeder routes where people, you mentioned, can wait anywhere to an hour or maybe a little bit less, right? So, any thoughts?
Well, that sounds inadequate to address the entire city. If it was one planner and then whatever consultants are brought in. Plus, it's dynamic. It's always changing. You have a vote before you on Thursday that could drastically change the transit master plan.
Right.
And another vote that very minimal public consultation.
Yeah. Keep in mind that's also going to be subject to public hearing.
Right. Now, the transit master plan, if we go back to 2021, I think what should have happened is publish the report, it's at IRPW, and then allow time for each counselor to take it and have multiple sessions in their wards and do their social media and their website and a public campaign through the Free Press, community newspaper, the Sun, whatever. But also know people are not engaged in the news like when we were kids, when 3 out of 4 households took the Winnipeg Free Press and everybody read it. It's not happening today. People actually are sick and tired of the news because they're so downtrodden by it. And they choose what they want to listen to. It's not always effective, not like it was a generation ago.
So what about when we roll the system out? Okay, let's say we do the consultation just prior to, but then afterwards when we roll it out, what about the feedback? Like, you know, when we, you know, quite often, well, we've done the job, we put the plan in place to correct, to be made aware, the consultation after the fact.
You always have to have something after, and you have to be
Well,
the ability to adjust.
Otherwise, we're gonna hear it on the phones, right?
You don't want to live with it for decades. You've got to allow the ability to adjust.
Right, to adjust.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's the thing too, right, is there is an adjustment period, and we just, you know, it's a little bit of pain, but we have to adjust, so.
But when I hear 800 meters,
But we're gonna have to be prepared potentially for the public to be coming back and saying, well, you know, this is
Yes.
great.
Yes,
Frequency, but your feeder route is crappy and I gotta wait. Yeah, once I get there, I'm okay.
that's why every counselor should actually sit down and look at it and go through it, like, it's really,
I did.
okay.
I don't know if Councillor Chambers remembers, Councillor Sharma's not here right now, but when I presented in April, I actually provided the number of footsteps today and then what it would be in the future. And I was complimented on how much detail I provided on what the real life experience is. Pie in the sky, hey, you can be at Portage Avenue, there'll be a bus every 5 minutes, fantastic. How do you get to Portage Avenue? And I was the first one to say there was nothing in the plan about improving sidewalk snow clearing.
And you work at Bruce Oak Recovery Center?
I do not work at Bruce Oak. I'm a champion of their charity. I raise funding and supplies for them.
Okay.
And I get people out there to experience something like a gratitude session.
Okay, thank you for doing that.
There are 71 men that have more than 1 year of sobriety because of Bruce Oak Recovery.
Okay, that's a new
Thanks.
topic, okay.
But it goes in the Naloxone.
I know, it's a good plug, okay,
But anybody wants to come out, I will host you there and you can check it out.
okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Ryback. I appreciate your emails. I don't necessarily get back to you on all of them, but I appreciate them. We all have perspectives. I'm posting my perspective on things on my website today. Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you. See you Thursday.
All right.
Okay, the next delegation is Dan.